Always say yes to the present moment. Surrender to what is. Say yes to life and see how life starts working for you. That's what Eckhart Tolle, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, says. Change the phrase say yes to say thank you, and Eckhart's wisdom becomes even more powerful. Welcome to day 6. Gratitude is in the present. When we are distracted, distant, and not fully immersed in the here and now, nothing is ever enough. We often feel we need more to be complete. We never actually feel satisfied. When we make gratitude the essence of each present moment, abundance multiplies. Simply being and being grateful creates a wholeness and completeness that is ultimately grace. It is by expressing our thanks that we align ourselves with the universe. And as Deepak is going to show us very beautifully, gratitude and grace are always available and here for us. Let's embrace them together now.
Gratitude enriches the present moment, bringing it alive. Every moment has its own energy, its own feeling, its unique signature. These are beautiful realizations, and they bring out something practical. Grace can only be found in the present moment. It lives in the here and now. There is nowhere else to find it. When you feel alive, you are in the present moment. The connection happens automatically. If you awaken your gratitude right now, grace is there to respond. But being present has become a challenge we all face. The media and consumerist culture are all about distractions. There's always something you don't have and need to buy. There's an ideal body image to strive for, and the expensive symbols of a perfect life. No one is supposed to have a perfect life right this minute. Getting one involves constant postponement. But whatever you postpone, you aren't experiencing here and now. The result is feeling that our present existence is always lacking. Life right now is not enough. Gratitude turns this around. We learn how to appreciate what you are given at this moment. We aren't stuck in the past or anticipating the future. Gratitude shifts our attention away from what seems to be missing. It begins to erase old anxious habits and empty desires. We find completeness in the present moment because that's the only place it can ever be found. In our meditations together, we ground ourselves in the present moment effortlessly. There's nothing to do. We only have to be. Once you learn how this feels, centered, secure, calm, peaceful, unconcerned, yet aware, you can learn to go back to that same feeling whenever you want to. In fact, by being grounded in the present, you can deepen your gratitude. There's a big difference between walking in the park and speeding past it in your car. The same is true of the present moment. If you're really in it, not just passing through on your way to something else, you appreciate the joy of simply being here. Try the following when you're taking a moment to be thankful. Close your eyes and center yourself. Imagine a perfect day at the beach. See the sun shining on the water. Feel the warm sand between your toes. Smell the gardenia perfume on the breeze. Now open your eyes. You will find that the room you're in looks just a touch brighter and fresher. For many people, it's more than a touch. Real vibrancy suddenly appears. This is what the present moment, every present moment, should feel like. It's the perfect setting for grace, and it's always here for you. As we prepare to meditate together, let's take a moment to consider our centering thought. Every moment is filled with grace. Every moment is filled with grace. Now let's prepare for our meditation. Make yourself comfortable and close your eyes. Begin to be aware of your breath and just breathe slowly and deeply. With each breath, allow yourself to become more deeply relaxed. Now, gently introduce the mantra, Samprati Hum. This mantra reminds us that our true self is ever-present awareness. Simply being awake in the now is the natural state of gratitude. As you think the mantra, feel that state of grace in the present moment. Repeat it silently to yourself. Samprati Hum.
Samprati Hum.
Samprati Hum.
Samprati
With each
Hum.
repetition, feel your body, mind, and spirit open and receive just a little more. Whenever you find yourself distracted by thoughts, noises, or physical sensations, simply return your attention to silently repeating the mantra. Samprati Hum.
Samprati Hum.
Hum.
Samprati
Samprati
Hum.
Hum.
Samprati Hum.
Please continue with your meditation. I'll mind the time, and when it's time to end, you'll hear me ring a soft bell. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum.
Samprati
Samprati
Hum.
Hum.
Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Lose yourself in the generous present moment. Awaken the gratitude in your heart in the present moment. Seize it. Gratitude. Blessings. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Open your heart, open your mind, open your spirit, feel it. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Go into the deepest part of your mind and experience gratitude. Lose yourself in the generous present moment. There's only a present moment, eternal present moment. It's filled with gratitude and grace. Thank you. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, 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 Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, 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 Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum, Samprati Hum. Samprati Hum, 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 Samprati Hum. Let go of your past. Let go of your future. Let go of the places and people in your life. Let go of everything. Let go of your body. And be there in the deepest corner of your mind. Awaken your consciousness and lose yourself in the generous present moment. Samprati Hum, 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 Samprati Hum. The eternal present moment is filled with gratitude and grace. Lose yourself in the generous present moment. There is only one eternal present moment. Seize it. Samprati Hum, 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 Samprati Hum.
It's time to release the mantra. Continue to sit restfully, inhaling and exhaling slowly. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes. As you continue with your day, contemplate the centering thought. Every moment is filled with grace. Every moment is filled with grace. Every moment is filled with grace. Namaste.
Thank you so much. I am so overwhelmed. And I have no words to say except thank you, thank you, Thank you.